I was 31 years old and my mother still called it an allowance. How much does your mother give you every month? My sister Ashley had asked at last year's Christmas dinner, loud enough for everyone to hear. 1,000? 1,500. That's between Mom and me, I'd answered quietly. So embarrassing, my brother Trevor had muttered to his wife. Still living off Mom at her age. Now, at Thanksgiving dinner in my parents' Connecticut estate, the subject had come up again. I was setting the table, my usual role at family gatherings, when Mom swept into the dining room with Ashley and my Aunt Linda. I've been thinking, Mom announced, examining the silverware placement I'd just completed and immediately rearranging 2 forks. Madison is 31 years old. Still taking money from us every month. It's really become unseemly. I continued folding napkins. Okay. Ashley laughed. That's all you have to say? What would you like me to say? Mom turned to face me fully. She was wearing a cream silk blouse that cost more than my rent and her signature pearls. I'd like you to show some initiative. Some independence. Your siblings have careers, homes, families. You have a part-time job at a library and an apartment in Queens. And a degree in library science, Aunt Linda added helpfully. Which cost how much in student loans? Those are paid off, I said quietly. Because we paid them, Mom corrected. $30,000. Which you've never even thanked us for properly. I had thanked them. Multiple times. But that wasn't the point of this conversation and I knew it. Trevor entered with his wife Rachel, both of them dressed like they'd stepped out of a country club catalog. Are we talking about Madison's allowance? Trevor asked. Please tell me you're finally cutting her off. We are, Mom said decisively. No more monthly allowance. Time to grow up. The words hung in the air. Around the table I could feel the satisfaction radiating from my family. This was a moment they'd been building toward, a culmination of years of subtle, and not so subtle, digs about my dependence, my failure to launch, my inability to be successful like them. Madison. Mom prompted. Nothing to say? I set down the napkin I'd been folding. I understand. Good, Dad said, entering from his study. He poured himself a scotch from the sideboard. It's for your own good. You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet. At 31, most people have already learned that, Ashley added. She was scrolling through her phone, not even looking at me. I was making 6 figures by 28. I was married with 2 kids by 30, Rachel contributed. The point is, Mom said, her voice taking on that particular tone she used when she wanted to sound both concerned and condescending, we've been enabling you. It stops today. No more monthly money. You'll need to figure out how to survive on your library salary. Trevor leaned against the doorframe, smirking. How much do librarians make anyway? 35,000? 40. Something like that, I said. Jesus, he muttered. How do you even afford New York on that? I didn't answer. Around me, the family settled into pre-dinner drinks, the subject of my financial inadequacy apparently resolved. I returned to the kitchen to help with final preparations. Don't worry, dear, Mrs. Chin, my parents' longtime housekeeper, said softly as I entered. You'll be fine. I know, I replied, checking the turkey temperature. Do they really not know? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Apparently not. She shook her head, suppressing a smile. Your grandfather would have found this hilarious. He would have. Grandpa Morrison had possessed a wicked sense of humor and a deep appreciation for irony. It's why he'd structured his trust the way he had. Dinner was the usual performance. The table was set with china that cost more than most people's cars. The wine was expensive. The conversation revolved around achievements. Trevor's latest promotion, Ashley's new Tesla, my cousin Brandon's hedge fund success. And Madison, Aunt Linda said during dessert, her voice dripping with false sweetness. What's new with you? Any career developments? Promotions? Dating anyone? Nothing exciting, I said, taking a small bite of pie. Still just checking out books? Trevor asked. Something like that. Mom sighed dramatically. Well, perhaps without our support you'll be motivated to aim higher. Find a real career. Meet someone successful. Maybe take some business courses, Dad suggested. Learn about investments, financial planning. Things that matter in the real world. Ashley laughed into her wine. Can you imagine Madison managing money? She can barely manage her own rent. I caught Mrs. Chen's eye from where she was clearing plates. She pressed her lips together, fighting a smile. The allowance stops effective immediately, Mom announced as if she hadn't made this clear enough already. No more monthly deposits. You're on your own. I understand, I said again. You keep saying that, Trevor observed. But do you really? Do you understand that you'll need to budget, to cut expenses, to actually work for a living like the rest of us? I believe I can manage. Ashley set down her phone, looking at me directly for the first time all evening. You know what? I think this is going to be good for you. A wake-up call. You've been coasting for too long. Coasting, I repeated neutrally. Living off family money while the rest of us built careers and families. Yes, coasting. She picked up her phone again. Time to join the real world, baby sister. The conversation moved on to other topics. Trevor's son's acceptance to a prestigious private school, Ashley's upcoming vacation to the Maldives, Dad's golf handicap. I sat quietly, finishing my pie, listening to my family discuss their successes and their plans. At 9 p.m. I excused myself. I should head home. Long subway ride. Oh, still taking the subway, Aunt Linda cooed. How quaint. Let me know if you need help finding a second job, Trevor called as I gathered my coat. I know some people who are hiring for retail. Not glamorous, but it's honest work. Thank you, I said. Mom walked me to the door. Madison, I want you to know this isn't punishment. It's tough love. You need to learn to be independent. I appreciate that. Do you? He studied my face. Sometimes I can't tell what you're thinking. You're so quiet, so passive. It worries me. I'm fine, Mom. Are you angry with us? I considered the question. No. Good. Because this really is for your own good. She squeezed my shoulder. Call if you need anything. Advice, I mean. Not money. Of course. I took the train back to Queens, watching the city lights blur past the window. My phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. Seriously though, if you need help with a resume, I know people. And from Trevor. Dad says you looked upset. Don't be dramatic. This is just reality. When I got home to my small but comfortable one-bedroom apartment, I made tea and sat at my desk. From a locked drawer I pulled out a folder of documents. Documents my family apparently had no idea existed. The Morrison Family Trust. Established by my grandfather 35 years ago. Current value, approximately $52 million. Trust manager, Madison Elizabeth Williams. Appointed 3 years ago. I had been 28 when Grandpa Morrison's lawyer, James Chen, Mrs. Chen's son, had called me to his office. Your grandfather left specific instructions, James had explained. The trust was to be managed by the grandchild who best demonstrated financial responsibility, ethical judgment, and genuine care for family rather than family money. Why me? I'd asked. Because you were the only one who visited him every week in his last years. The only one who listened to his stories instead of asking about your inheritance. The only one who lived within your means despite having the option not to. James had slid papers across his desk. He also noted that you were the only grandchild who understood the difference between net worth and self-worth. Does my family know? That you're the trust manager? Well, your grandfather felt it would be illuminating to see how they treated you without that knowledge. For 3 years I had quietly managed the trust. The trust that funded my parents' lifestyle, that paid for Ashley's Tesla and Trevor's country club membership and Aunt Linda's cosmetic procedures. The trust they all assumed was being managed by some distant financial firm. The trust they thought had nothing to do with me. My phone rang. James Chen. Did you have a nice Thanksgiving? He asked. Eventful. I assume they've cut you off? As of tonight. And they still don't know? Not a clue. He chuckled. Your grandfather would be laughing. What would you like to do? I looked at the documents in front of me. Monthly disbursements to my parents, $28,000. To Trevor, $8,500. To Ashley, $7,200. To Aunt Linda, $4,000. All of it carefully structured to look like standard trust distributions, not requiring any approval or oversight. Except they did require approval. My approval. Every single month. The December disbursements are coming up, I said. They'll need to be approved by Monday. That's correct. What happens if I don't approve them? The payments don't process. The family members receive notifications that their requests were denied by the trust manager and that they'll need to schedule a meeting to discuss continued funding. A meeting with me? Yes. I thought about my mother's smirk. Trevor's contempt. Ashley's casual cruelty. Years of being treated as the family failure, the disappointing one, the child who never quite measured up. Let them arrive, I said. I'm sorry. The notifications. Let them receive the notifications. Schedule the meeting for next week. James was quiet for a moment. You're sure? I'm sure. Your grandfather, he said slowly, included a clause in the trust documents. He said that when the time came and he knew it would come, the trust manager should remember that family is complicated. That people can change. That money reveals character but doesn't have to define it. I know, I said. I've read the documents many times. All right then. I'll prepare the notifications. They'll go out Monday morning. After we hung up, I sat at my desk for a long time. Outside my window, Queens hummed with its usual nighttime energy. Inside I felt strangely calm. 3 years ago, Grandpa Morrison had given me a gift and a burden. The power to help my family. The knowledge of what they really thought of me. The responsibility to decide what to do with both. Monday morning was going to be very interesting. The weekend passed quietly. I worked my Saturday shift at the library, the job my family considered beneath them, the work I actually loved. I helped an elderly man find books on local history. I ran a children's reading hour. I assisted a college student with research databases. You seem happy today, my colleague Marcus observed during lunch break. Do I? You're smiling. You never smile this much. It's been a good morning. What I didn't tell him was that in approximately 48 hours, my family was going to receive a very unexpected shock. Monday morning, I was shelving books in the reference section when my phone started buzzing. First a call from Mom, then Dad, then Ashley, Trevor, Aunt Linda. All within 15 minutes. I let them go to voicemail. By noon, I had 23 missed calls and 17 text messages. Mom, Madison, call me immediately. There's been a problem with the trust. Dad, we need to talk. Something's wrong with our account. Ashley, did you get a weird notice from Grandpa's trust? What is going on? Trevor, call Mom. Some issue with the family money. Aunt Linda, has anyone explained what's happening? I'm supposed to meet with the trust manager? At 1 p.m. my phone rang again. James Chin. They're all trying to reach me, he said. Your mother has called 6 times. Your father threatened to speak to my superiors. Ashley demanded an emergency meeting. What did you tell them? That the trust manager will meet with all family members on Wednesday at 2 p.m. That attendance is mandatory for continued consideration of disbursement requests. And that the trust manager's identity would be revealed at that time. How did they take it? Your mother asked if she should bring her lawyer. Your father asked if this was some kind of scam. Trevor asked how much the trust manager makes because he's in finance and might be interested in the position. I couldn't help laughing. Of course he did. Wednesday at 2, Madison. My office. Are you ready for this? I thought about Thanksgiving dinner. About years of being dismissed, overlooked and pitted. About my mother's smirk as she announced I was being cut off. I'm ready. Tuesday night I received an email from Ashley. Madison, I don't know if anyone told you, but there's some issue with Grandpa's trust. The family needs to meet with the trust manager tomorrow. Since you were close to Grandpa, I guess. Maybe you should come too. It affects all of us. Also, have you found a second job yet? Mom's worried about you. I wrote back, I'll be there. Wednesday morning I dressed carefully. Not in my usual jeans and sweater, but in a navy suit I'd purchased last year and never worn. I styled my hair. Put on makeup. Wore the pearl earrings Grandpa had given me for college graduation. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone professional, composed and confident. Someone my family wouldn't recognize. Chin and Associates occupied a suite of offices in Midtown Manhattan. When I arrived at 1:45 p.m., the receptionist smiled. Ms. Williams. Mr. Chin said to send you straight back to the conference room. Thank you. The conference room was large, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. James was already there along with 2 associates. Documents were arranged neatly at the head of the table. You look very official, James observed. I feel very official. Your family is in the waiting room. They arrived early. Together. Your mother brought her lawyer as predicted. Let them wait a few more minutes. At exactly 2 p.m., James's assistant showed them in. Mom entered first, followed by Dad, Ashley, Trevor, and Aunt Linda. Mom's lawyer, a severe woman in an expensive suit, brought up the rear. They all looked stressed, confused, and slightly angry. Then they saw me sitting at the head of the table. Madison. Mom stopped. What are you doing here? Please sit down, James said, gesturing to the chairs arranged on the opposite side of the table. Why is Madison here? Trevor demanded. This is a family financial matter. She doesn't need to be involved. Actually, James said calmly, Ms. Williams is the reason you're all here. Ashley frowned. What does that mean? I met her eyes steadily. It means I'm the trust manager. The silence was absolute. That's impossible, Dad said finally. It's documented fact, James replied. He slid papers across the table. Madison Elizabeth Williams has been the trust manager for the Morrison Family Trust for the past 3 years. She has sole authority over all disbursements, investment decisions, and distribution schedules. Mom's face had gone pale. This is a joke. It's not, I said quietly. Grandpa Morrison appointed me trust manager when I was 28. I've been managing the trust and approving your monthly disbursements ever since. But you're... Ashley couldn't seem to finish the sentence. I'm what? I asked. A librarian? Living in Queens? Taking an allowance from Mom? Trevor leaned forward. If you're the trust manager, why would you take an allowance from Mom? I don't, I said simply. I never have. The money that appears in my account every month comes from the trust. The same trust that funds all of your lifestyles. I approved it for myself just like I approved it for everyone else. Mom's lawyer cleared her throat. Ms. Williams, if you're claiming to be the trust manager, we'll need to see documentation. Proof of authority. Verification of. James slid a thick folder across the table. Complete documentation. Trust appointment papers signed by Morrison Family Trust founder William Morrison 3 years ago. Madison's credentials as a certified financial manager. She completed her certification 2 years ago. Monthly disbursement records for the past 36 months, all bearing her approval signature. Investment performance reports. Everything you need to verify her authority. The lawyer opened the folder, scanning the documents. Her expression shifted from skepticism to surprise to something like professional respect. These appear to be in order. They are in order, I said. I've been doing this job for 3 years. The trust has grown from $42 million to $52 million during that time through careful investment and management. Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You've been managing our money? The family money, I corrected. Grandpa's money, distributed according to his wishes and my judgment. Your judgment. Ashley's voice was shrill. You work part-time at a library. I work full-time as a trust manager, I replied. The library job is what I do because I enjoy it, not because I need it. I earn $185,000 annually as trust manager, plus performance bonuses. Trevor looked like he might be sick. You make $185,000? Plus bonuses, James confirmed. Last year's performance bonus was $42,000. Madison has consistently exceeded benchmarks for trust growth and responsible management. Mom found her voice. Why didn't you tell us? Grandpa specifically instructed me not to, I said. He wanted to see how the family would treat me without knowing I controlled your income. The words hung in the air like an indictment. So this was a test, Aunt Linda said bitterly. An observation, I corrected. Grandpa wanted me to understand who you all really were. What you really valued. And we failed, Mom whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Ashley rallied first, her voice sharp. Okay, so you've been managing the trust. Fine. What does that have to do with this meeting? Why did our payments get blocked? Because you cut off my allowance, I said simply. Last Thursday, Mom announced that I was cut off effective immediately. That I needed to grow up and learn to stand on my own 2 feet. Oh my God, Trevor muttered. You were lecturing me about financial responsibility, I continued, while living on trust money that I had approved. You were mocking my career while I was managing your income. You were calling me a failure while ensuring you could maintain your lifestyles. Mom's hands were shaking. Madison, we didn't know. That's exactly the point, I interrupted. You didn't know and you treated me terribly anyway. You assumed I was dependent on you. You belittled my choices. You laughed at my apartment and my job and my life. We were trying to motivate you, Dad said weakly. No, I said. You were trying to feel superior. There's a difference. James cleared his throat. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the continuation of monthly disbursements. Ms. Williams has asked me to review the current distribution schedule and family financial situations. He pulled out more documents. George and Patricia Morrison currently receive $28,000 monthly from the trust. This covers their mortgage on a property worth $3.2 million, country club dues, car leases, travel expenses, and general lifestyle costs. Your actual combined income from George's consulting work is approximately $7,500 monthly. Mom closed her eyes. Trevor Morrison receives $8,500 monthly, which supplements his salary and covers private school tuition for his children, his car lease, and discretionary spending. Ashley Morrison receives $7,200 monthly for similar purposes. Linda Harper receives $4,000 monthly for living expenses. Everyone in this room, James continued, is living significantly beyond their actual means, supported by trust disbursements that Madison has been approving every month. So what? Ashley demanded. That's what the trust is for. Grandpa set it up for family. Grandpa set it up to be managed wisely, I corrected. He gave the trust manager full authority over distributions, including the authority to modify or discontinue them. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. You wouldn't, Trevor said. But his voice was uncertain. I wouldn't what? I asked. Cut you off? The way Mom cut me off last Thursday. That was different, Mom said desperately. We thought you needed tough love. We thought we were helping. Were you? I looked at each of them in turn. Because from where I was sitting it felt a lot like cruelty. Like taking pleasure in having power over me. No one answered. Madison, Dad said carefully, what do you want? It was a good question. What did I want? I thought about Grandpa Morrison, who had built a fortune through careful work and smart investments. Who had loved his family but worried about what money would do to them. Who had trusted me to manage both the money and the relationships. I want, I said slowly, for you to understand something. The money you've been receiving? It's not automatic. It's not guaranteed. It's not your right. We know that, Ashley said. Do you? Because you've been treating it like a salary. Like something you deserve just for existing. I leaned forward. Every month I approve your disbursements. Every month I look at your requests and expenses. Every month I decide whether you're using Grandpa's money responsibly. And Trevor's jaw was tight. And I've been seeing some concerning patterns. Dad, you've increased your golf club spending by 40% in the last year. Mom, your clothing budget has tripled. Ashley, you just bought a $120,000 car. Trevor, you're spending $6,000 a month on private school when there are excellent public schools available. We're allowed to enjoy the money, Aunt Linda protested. You're allowed to use it wisely, I corrected. There's a difference. Grandpa didn't build this trust so his family could live like celebrities. He built it to provide security and opportunity. Mom's lawyer spoke up. Ms. Williams, are you threatening to cut off their disbursements? I'm explaining reality, I said. The reality you all seem to have forgotten. This is Grandpa's money managed by me, distributed at my discretion. Not yours. So what happens now? Dad asked. I pulled out a document I'd prepared. Now we restructure. Everyone's disbursements continue, but with new conditions. Conditions? Ashley looked outraged. Yes. First, you'll each meet with a financial advisor to create a budget based on your actual income. Second, you'll work toward reducing your dependency on trust disbursements by 25% over the next 2 years. Third, you'll submit quarterly expense reports showing you're living within the agreed parameters. That's ridiculous, Trevor said. We're adults. You can't police our spending. I'm not policing it, I said calmly. I'm managing a trust responsibly. If you want to spend your own money however you like, that's fine. But if you want trust money, these are the conditions. And if we refuse? Ashley asked. Then the disbursements stop. The room went very quiet. You can't do this, Mom said, tears in her eyes. We're your family. You're right, I agreed. You are my family. Which is why I'm not cutting you off. I'm helping you learn to manage money properly. The way Grandpa wanted. The way I've been trying to model for 3 years while you mocked me for living in Queens and working at a library. We didn't know, Mom repeated. But you should have respected me anyway, I said. You should have treated me with kindness regardless of how much money you thought I had. That's what family does. Dad looked down at his hands. You're right. God help us, you're absolutely right. I don't accept this, Ashley said, standing up. I'm getting my own lawyer. We'll contest this. You can't just. Ms. Morrison, James interrupted, his voice sharp. I strongly advise against that course of action. The trust documents are ironclad. Any family member who contests the trust manager's authority is automatically eliminated from future disbursements. Permanently. Ashley sat back down. The choice is yours, I said. Accept the new conditions and learn to live responsibly. Or refuse and learn to live on your actual incomes. I stood up. You have until Friday to decide. Send your responses to James. I gathered my papers and walked to the door. Madison, Mom called. Wait. I turned back. I'm sorry, she said. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry. For Thanksgiving. For all of it. For not seeing who you really are. I appreciate that, I said. But sorry isn't enough. I need to see change. You will, Dad promised. We'll meet your conditions. All of them. We'll see, I said. And I walked out. That evening I was back in my Queens apartment making dinner when my phone rang. Ashley. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. What do you want? To apologize, Ashley said. She sounded exhausted. And to tell you you're right. About everything. I stirred the pasta sauce, waiting. I've been thinking about Thanksgiving, she continued. About how we treated you. How I treated you. And Madison. I was cruel. Genuinely cruel. Yes, I agreed. You were. I think I was jealous. That surprised me. Jealous of what? Of you being happy. You always seemed content with your life, with your choices. And I am not. I make 6 figures and drive a Tesla and I'm miserable. My job is exhausting. My marriage is strained. I can't afford my lifestyle without the trust money, and I hate that about myself. I turned off the stove. Ashley. No, let me finish. I think we all resented you because you seemed free. You weren't trapped in the performance of success like the rest of us. You weren't drowning in debt and appearances. You were just living. And we couldn't stand it. I sat down at my small kitchen table. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know. And because I'm going to accept your conditions. I'm going to meet with the financial advisor. I'm going to create a budget. I'm going to learn to live within my actual means. She paused. But I'm also going to apologize properly. 4 years of being a terrible sister. I appreciate that. Do you forgive me? I thought about it. I don't know yet. But I'm willing to see if you can change. That's more than I deserve, Ashley said quietly. Thank you. After we hung up, I finished making dinner. My phone buzzed with text. Trevor, accepting the conditions. Let's talk soon. Dad, Mom and I are meeting with an advisor tomorrow. We'll do better. Even Aunt Linda, you're tougher than you look, kid. Respect. I ate my pasta and watched the city lights outside my window. Somewhere across town, my family was grappling with a new reality. One where I wasn't the failure. Where I wasn't the one who needed to grow up. Where I was and had always been exactly who I needed to be. 6 months later, I had dinner with my parents at their house. A Thursday evening tradition we'd reinstated. The financial advisor says we've reduced our monthly expenses by $8,000, Mom said, showing me their budget spreadsheet with genuine pride. We canceled the country club membership. It was excessive. And I'm taking on more consulting work, Dad added. It's actually refreshing being productive again. Ashley moved to a smaller apartment, Mom continued. She says it's actually made her happier. Less pressure to maintain appearances. And Trevor's kids love their new school, Dad said. He was worried, but they've adjusted beautifully. I sipped my wine. I'm proud of you. All of you. Madison, Mom said carefully, can I ask you something? Of course. When you were managing the trust all this time, seeing how we treated you, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you tell us? I thought about it. Because Grandpa wanted me to learn something too. He wanted me to understand that real worth doesn't come from other people's recognition. It comes from knowing yourself. He was a wise man, Dad said. He was, I agreed. And he loved you. All of you. Even when you made it difficult. Like we loved you, Mom said. Even when we didn't show it properly. Even then, I agreed. We ate dinner. Simple food, honest conversation, real connection. Outside, the sun set over Connecticut. Inside, slowly, we were becoming something we'd never quite been before. A real family. Not the performance of it. The authentic thing. After dinner, I drove back to Queens. My apartment was small but comfortable. My job was fulfilling. My life was exactly what I wanted it to be. And every month, I logged into the trust management system and approved disbursements for my family. Not because they demanded it. Not because they expected it. But because that's what family does. When they're trying. When they're changing. When they're finally, genuinely seeing each other. The next Thursday, I had tea with Mrs. Chen. Your grandfather would be proud, she said. I hope so. He wanted you to understand that money is just a tool. The real test is what you build with it. I looked out at the city I loved, the life I'd built, the family I was slowly helping rebuild. I think I'm starting to understand, I said. And I was. 1 year after the revelation, the Morrison Family Trust continued to provide disbursements to family members, now reduced by 35% as everyone learned to live within their actual means. Ashley started a blog about financial transparency. Trevor became an advocate for public education. My parents downsized to a smaller home they could actually afford. I still worked at the library 3 days a week. Not because I needed to, but because I loved it. Because success isn't measured in dollar signs. It's measured in purpose, in peace, in knowing who you are regardless of what others think. Every Thursday I managed the trust that Grandpa Morrison had built. And every Thursday I remembered what he taught me, that real wealth isn't what you have. It's who you are. And I was exactly who I wanted to be.